What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of the Spiritual Word. As always, I apologize for any noises in the background in advance and anything of that nature. And also, before I start these off, I like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating that these are for entertainment purposes only, and to always do your own research, to come to your own conclusions, to have your own answers, to make your own decisions, and I believe in your ability to do so to be your own person. So today's episode, we're going to talk about relationships. And what directly I want to talk about is the most common themes that I see when it comes to relationships and when it comes to like the dynamic of the most common played out roles that I see in relationships. So the first one that I want to talk about is the fact that we want these people or this person to understand us, whether this be platonic, family, friends, or a partner, romantic partner. And a lot of the times we don't take into consideration the fact that most people, they're living their own lives. They have the same thoughts. And because of this, we assume that if they don't show up for us in the way that we want, then we assume that they're not showing up for us at all. Now, that's not to say that they are showing up, because it also depends on if they actually are showing up. And showing up in the ways that they know how to show up. Because there's a difference between putting the bare minimum and actually putting in effort and work. Like, I can take my own dynamics into consideration, for example. And I could say that if I'm with a person of interest, if I'm with a romantic partner, and my bare minimum is looking like, oh, I just text you whenever you feel, lonely, or like I call you when I get off of work or when I wake up or something like that. Something along those lines. That's my bare minimum. And then the days that I don't want to put in any effort, I'm like, you know what? Instead of calling you, I'm just going to text you. Or instead of actually caring about something that you care about, I'm just not going to do that. And so there's differences between those things, but a lot of the times we mistake the fact that some people are trying, they just don't know how to try, as a whole face value type of thing, which I honestly, most of the time, like I always say in these, always do your own research to come to your own conclusions. Most of the time, I think that it's just a lack of communication. We want this person to bring us stuff that we want, or we want this person to tell us stuff that we want, or we want this person to behave this way because we want, right? And using the same example as the ego, sorry, I'm getting a call. We want, like, our ego is this little kid within us, right? This little kid that doesn't understand what being mature is. It doesn't understand how to deal with feelings. It doesn't understand how to deal with any type of thing like that. So just to put this, I'm only going to make this really fucking short, just because I don't want to go too deep into this. But if this is something that you would want to know more about, then I will for sure make more episodes on this. But I think communication is something that I see as a repeating pattern that's missed a lot of the time. Like, a lot of the time people don't communicate with each other. They just want you to know what they want you to know. They want you to either do, say, act a certain way, and they will never communicate that to you. Like, for example, I have a lot of people in my life. I'm not in a relationship, so, take my advice with a grain of salt. This is just what I see. But a lot of the times what does happen to me is that, I'll be talking to somebody, like, in a romantic way, and then they'll never really communicate with me directly. They'll always kind of take turns and go left and go right and beat around the bush. And I'm a very direct person, so I need you to tell me things very directly, because I'm intuitive, yeah, but I don't want to have to piece together puzzles of who you are. You know what I mean? Because most of the time I'm not going to be able to do that, because I don't know what you've gone through. And a lot of the times, like, I get into relationships with other girls. Like, that's my romantic interest. So what I see most commonly is that girls won't talk about what they want, they won't talk about what they need, they won't talk about like their um past hurts, or they won't talk about the things that have carved them out, which a lot of the times is hurt. A lot of the times people use their pain to carve themselves out. So, because of that um recurring thing, or that theme that I see a lot, that's why I wanted to talk about communication specifically. And this is not going to go into detail about anything else other than communication, but people cannot read your mind. Nobody can, even if your best friend can. It's through time, it's through loving somebody and through dedication to that person that you actually become aware of what the other person needs. And obviously, there is a bunch of intuitive things that happen. Like if we're eating and I'm, patting my hand over my mouth and like, pointing to you with my eyes and being like, hey, 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 like pay attention, I need something, then obviously your intuitive hint is going to be like, oh, maybe you need a napkin, right? So there is certain things that you don't need verbal communication about, but I think that verbal communication goes a lot further than the other type of communication, because if I say that I need something, it's going to be communicated, and it's, it now falls on the other person to do something about that or to not do something about that, because sometimes you can communicate something and it'll go right over the other person's head, and I guarantee you if that happens, they don't give a fuck about you, and not because they don't care about you, but because they don't care enough. They're going to give you the bare minimum and take this for face value, because like if you're a girl listening to this, listen to what I'm saying, because I guarantee you this has happened to you more than once. And it's not to say that the other person doesn't give a fuck about you, because most of the time I don't think that that's true, or else people wouldn't get in relationships in the first place. But they're not gonna care enough, and that's one of the pieces that communication really shows you. Really shows you whether or not this person is going to listen to you, and if they're actively listening. Because somebody who's actively listening to you, of course, they're going to give you their time, effort, energy, all of it. So I think that communication is huge. Another thing that I see like really commonly is that people will like me and then they won't tell me, and I'll actually like them back, and because they never told me and I never told them, communication falls and that whole opportunity is missed. So not only do things go wrong when you don't communicate, I also think that you miss opportunities. I also think that you miss out on having certain conversations and having certain moments that are like very heartfelt, because in moments of distress you need to communicate. In moments of joy you need to communicate. Like, it's a human thing, we just want it, right? And it's just like the ego just wants what it wants. So in order to kind of soothe that ego, that egotistical need of yours, would be to communicate, or to, do something that will help in that realm of communication. But anyways, I'm gonna end this here just because I feel like this was long. Thanks for tuning in and tapping in. And as always, take all of the things that I say with a grain of salt, because I'm not in your life, I'm not in your shoes. I don't know you, you don't know me. But it is what it is. Anyways, I appreciate you for being here. I love my babies, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.